Alright, it's Tiny Housinʼ, volume 20. And I know it's volume 20 for sure because I checked before I opened the door. Oh boy, another 40 miles of biking today with some back-breaking work in the middle. Look at what I look like right now. Oh, and I feel just like that. Oh, I'm going to get my hair cut this week. And, but yeah, I had an interesting day and an interesting ride for sure. What's going on? It's your boy Adam. It's Tiny Housinʼ, volume 20. And I'm just going to compile a few videos over the next few days while I take a break from the cycling and the bakery. The weather finally turned better. I'm in a t-shirt and shorts right now, and it feels wonderful. I think it was low 70s today on the way home. There's a little nip in the air, but nothing crazy. When I woke up this morning, it was like when I got out of bed, it was 46 degrees. First time I looked at the temperature, it was 46 degrees. And I'm like, yeah, that's good. That's a good start. And it kept kind of flip-flopping, 47, 46. So I put on a pair of shorts, no shoe covers, no gloves, no ear band. But I did put 2 long sleeve layers on up top just to keep the core warmer. And because, a shorter ride, no big deal. But, 20 miles takes, you never really know what's going to happen. And you kind of, like, your body starts to wear a little bit. And you start to feel colder the longer you go. I don't know, your body warms up, but it wasn't too much. I never got too warm. I felt like I probably could have got away with 1 long sleeve layer, but wearing 2 didn't hurt. It didn't cause me to be hot. It was the right setup. The warmer it gets, the faster I go, baby. Oh, it was so nice this morning. Even though it was a bit nipply, it was a good ride all the way in. I think I got honked at once. I think I traded a honking horn for 1 middle finger. But that was about the extent of the exchange on the way in. Good fast times. I really haven't analyzed my effort on the way in detail. But the ride is basically broken down into 4 segments. I've talked about this more than once, but it's 4 almost equal segments. And on my way in, the first 3 segments, it's kind of weird. All 4 segments are completely distinct. They have their own vibe, their own kind of feel. It's a completely different atmosphere for the 4 segments of the ride. And the first 3 segments are almost precisely 20 minutes long. So there's 3 segments that take an hour. 20 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 minutes. And then the 4th segment depends on a number of factors, but it seems to be taking a little bit longer. So my ride is anywhere from an hour, 15 minutes to, on the worst day, it was 2 hours to go about 21 miles. And so this morning I knew I was on good pace because the first segment took about 20 minutes. The second segment took 20 minutes, right on the money. The third segment took 20 minutes. Like precisely 20 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 minutes. And so I was thinking, if segment 4 takes 20 minutes, I'm going to be in good shape. I'm going to be there at like 10 to 8 and I'm going to have plenty of time to have breakfast. Well, the fourth segment took a little bit longer. For some reason, I haven't really measured the distances and gotten that detailed with it. But the fourth segment seems to take the longest, which is the first segment on the way home. So I got there like right at 8 o'clock. Chick-fil-A, got 2 chicken burritos. I had plenty of time to sit down and eat, and it makes the world of difference. When I leave the house in the morning, I'm not hungry at all. When I get there, I'm famished. I'm ready to eat some breakfast, and I don't want to just sugar bomb a giant 1,000-calorie cookie. I want some protein and some eggs and some, like, an actual breakfast. And the Chick-fil-A chicken burrito is pretty good. It's the quickest thing I can grab. Chick-fil-A is like not exactly right next door, but I can bump up to Chick-fil-A, grab 2 burritos, turn around and come back, and that's 5 minutes total. And then I can lock my bike up, go in, get changed, sit down, eat. And I'm telling you, I really don't even have to eat that much tonight because having a nice breakfast like that, it just changes the entire tone of the day. At some point towards the end of my shift, I did have a sugar bomb. I had a French silk pie. We're making those this week. These are like personal size pies. So I had a French silk pie. It was pretty good. I got to go back to that place on Friday and Saturday, and I'm probably going to skip the French silk pie and do something different each of those days. Not really like, the selection this week isn't really doing it for me, like in terms of what we're making and what we're selling. Like nothing I'm terribly excited about. Last week was really good. Next week's going to be really crazy good. I think we're making some turtle cheesecakes and who knows what. I don't even know. But oh boy, what a nice ride that was this morning. And I had to go and do some errands. I had to go to the bank after work, change my address, and get a couple other things. This landlord, he wants me to pay him with money orders. And I had to go to the bank to make a small deposit. And I also I figured while I was there, I could change my address because I couldn't do it online. Pretty much all the other banks, all I got to do is submit a new address, change of address form, and hit submit, and I'm good to go. This one, I had to either go to the bank or call customer service. Figured since I got to go to the bank anyway, I'll get that done. And then I ended up getting a money order at the bank instead of going to the grocery store to do it. My landlord wants me to pay with a money order instead of a personal check, at least for now. It's not like he doesn't know where I live if the check bounces, but whatever. Maybe I'll figure out a way to pay him electronically next month. But definitely, when I withdrew the money to make that rent payment for March, it was like a scary moment because my bank account dipped. And I'm like, whoa. I mean, I'm still okay. I'm still okay, but it was like, kind of made me want to go on a spending freeze for a bit. And this chair that I'm sitting in, this plastic Adirondack chair, I had to replace that. I went to Walmart yesterday and just to try out grocery shopping there. And I saw one of the zero gravity lounge chairs in the camping chair section. And it had a sign next to it. It said $25 clearance. And I'm like, hell yeah. So I grabbed that thing and I threw it in my cart. Heavy and awkward as it was. It was kind of like a lighter version of one of those. And it had like these backpack straps on it. So I guess it's like something you can carry on your back when you're walking down to the beach or whatever. But whatever. I thought I was getting one of these for $25. I was like, yes. But I'm like, this is too good to be true. And a lot of these stores, they do that shit where they'll put a clearance sticker next to something, but then the sticker, the clearance price isn't for the thing that the sticker is next to. And I think stores do that on purpose, just so that you bring the thing up to the cash register, and then when they tell you that, then you get into like some argument about it. Well, there was a clearance sticker right next to it, and blah blah blah. And like, how many people will just walk out the door with the thing and pay full price because they don't want, you know what I mean? Like, some people will be like, "No, go put it back," but other people will be like, whatever, I'll take it. So, anyway, I saw a blue shirt walking down the aisle, and I was like, hey, excuse me, can you scan this thing for me? Because it said it was on clearance, but I'm kind of skeptical on this. She goes, bloop. She's like, well, it's ringing up for me for $90. I'm like, $90? No, 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 no. So I put that thing back. So that must have been for some other chair, even though this is the chair that the sticker was right next to. So I didn't get my lounge. Well, then I get back home and I sit in this chair, this plastic $25 piece of junk plastic chair. And last night, all of a sudden, the back end just went woo, like, and I get up and I look, and the back legs are all splayed out. And, like, the whole thing's just about to collapse. This chair is about to fall apart. And I'm like, crap. I was hoping to put off getting a chair for a few more weeks, because I've got the 4 things that I want to take back to Target and trade in. It was the bike pump, the salt and pepper mill, the chair, and the step stool. I want to get a 4-step step stool and step ladder instead of a 2-step step ladder, so that I can reach this stuff up here easier. It's just, I can't, and in order to be able to change these light bulbs, I can't reach them with the 2-step step stool. Now, I'm sure there's a ladder somewhere around here I could grab and use if I need to, but I want to be self-sufficient. I don't want to go grab a ladder out of the garage. I just want to be able to do it myself. But I'm not in a hurry for this stuff. But I did order a lounge chair, like one of those zero-gravity outdoor patio lounge chairs for my tiny house. I've had these things before. I used to keep them in my sunroom. I've kept them in different places around my old house. I had a couple of them. They're comfortable. I ended up spending a little bit more than I wanted to, because when I went on Amazon, the ones that were $40, when I looked at the shipping, it said they wouldn't be here until like sometime in the middle of March. If I ordered it right now, you'll get it sometime around March 15th. I'm like, crap. So I turned it into like, what can I get tomorrow? Which I wasn't even going to be here today. So, but I've got one on the way. It's going to be here tomorrow. It was a little bit pricier. It's got like a cushion that goes over it. So it's a little bit more, I didn't really care about the cushion. In fact, I don't even know if it'll be comfortable or not, but so I'm going to do that, and I'm going to go get a rug, I don't know how to explain it, like a durable, the kind of rug that you would put in your mud room to wipe your feet off and to take your shoes off when you come in the house, kind of a rug. Like a rubber mat, but it's got fiber on top. It's going to be exactly the same as some of the rugs I used to have in my old place that the FBI drove a tank into. Really nice rubber-backed, durable rug, because this floor is just trash in this place. The floor is basically covered with what I would describe as rolls of black Scotch tape. So this little plastic chair, has just peeled the floor apart, and from just sitting in it. And there's other spots on this floor that have been ripped up from moving my desks around and things like that. And I just patch it with I just patch it with Gorilla Tape, Gorilla duct tape, black duct tape. And the landlord, he don't really care. He said he's gonna at some point put down a layer of epoxy, like one of those epoxy floors like you would have in your garage or something like that. Like something durable that's not gonna just get ripped up like that. So he doesn't give a shit. But just to make the place, I want to put like a rug under the chair that I get, so that if I move the chair around back and forth, whatever, it doesn't keep tearing up the floor, because it looks like shit. And yeah, I mean, yeah, my ceiling looks like shit, and so do these curtains. These curtains came with the place. These, I don't have an iron. I don't have a steamer. I don't really, the only thing these things are like Velcroed in place. So the only thing I could think of right now would be to like spray them down with water and throw them in the dryer on, like some sort of permanent press setting, or I don't know. There might be something I can do to kind of get the wrinkles out and make them look a little better. But my goal is to be in a better place in 6 months. So I don't know. But when I looked at my bank account after I took out the money to pay rent for March, I was like, holy shit. It was a scary sight. But it's not like I'm flat broke. But I gotta replenish the money that just came out to pay rent. And then some. And I can. I could do it in the next 3 days if I play my cards right. I don't expect that to go that smooth. But depending on what happens in the next 3 days, but maybe by the end of February, I can at least have receivables in the amount that I need to replenish those funds. And then I've got the entire month of March to try, to hit that next one. So, anything can happen. Anything can happen. So I'm not even really going to worry about it tonight. My biggest concern right now is getting this hair did. This hair I'm way past due on a barber shop visit. Somebody in the comments told me about a barber shop that's right around the corner from here. It's not too far from here. I'm going to say like no more than 2 miles. I could either walk there or ride my bike. He said it was dirt cheap, like $16. I looked on their website, or I did my homework. It looks like it's going to be like $30, because the FJB economics has eggs cost $10 a dozen now. So haircuts have gotten ridiculous too. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I may just get desperate to the point where I think there's a Supercuts that's like right next to Target. If that chair shows up tomorrow from Amazon, I'm going to take this plastic one back to Target like right away. I want to get that money back, even though it's $25, $26, whatever. I just want to get it back, put it back on that card, and just kind of proceed from there. And just start moving everything in the right direction and get, any little thing I can do to improve my place, improve my situation, whatnot. It's just a never-ending list of things. Like, I don't even have, like, sheets and real pillows. Like, basic shit that people use in their house. Like, I came with a random assortment of stuff from New York, or from Pittsburgh to Houston. I didn't really have time to pack a perfect pack to come down here with, I guess. And so like, it's just, I'm just winging it. I'm just flying by the seat of my pants. And it's crazy when you're starting from like ground zero, nothing. Like, but at the same time, I don't want to spend the money on certain things or anything right now, because I got to play this game of putting the money back in the bank. And once I get back to a certain amount, then I want to save more. I want to save enough to where I can get a car. Like if I could save up enough in the next 2 months to go out and buy some sort of car, that would be splendid. Um, I would forego what's the how do I want to put this? I would sacrifice getting out of my tiny house in 6 months. I would, if I can get a car in my possession, keys in hand, title in hand, or, you know, car note in hand, making payments, whatever the case may be. If I can do that, I would be willing to forego getting out of here in 6 months into a better place, a better apartment or whatever, if I could get a set of wheels. If I could do both, that would be awesome. But if I can get myself a car, but by getting, like, if I had the choice between getting myself a new place that's better than this or getting a car, I would choose car and keep this place for now. If I can do both, that would be great. But if I can't, car would come first. So, but I kind of have to, like, tomorrow is kind of like the way I'm going to try and structure my weeks right now, because I do have some control over my schedule at the bakery. I can request certain days off and I'll get them. Um, and if I really feel like okay, so maybe the first week of March, maybe like things don't go my way over the next couple of weeks, I can turn on my availability for the bakery to be completely wide open. Just schedule me whenever you want me there. I'll make it work. I'll ride my bike at night, whatever the case may be. I can definitely crank up the number of hours I'm working there and put enough money away over a couple of weeks to give me a little bit of an economical boost if I need it. But in the meantime, I'm going to try and structure it a little better. So I'm giving them my availability will be Monday, Friday, Saturday. We're closed on Sundays. So that gives me Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 3 days in a row to get other things done. Now, last weekend I had Saturday and Sunday off. And I just, like, Saturday, I was beat. I did nothing. I did about as close to nothing as I could get away with on Saturday. I did very little. Yesterday I did a little bit more, but yesterday it was more like I went and walked and did things. I got my Jesus on. I went down to the grocery store. I walked to Walmart and back to see what that would be like. The bakery has another location right down there next to Walmart. So I may walk. They were closed on Sundays, or I would have done it yesterday. But I would like to walk in and just tell them that I submitted an application online, and just let them know, hey, I work at the one down in this other neighborhood, and so if you're looking for someone, if you need help, if you're looking for someone to cover some shifts, you've got a guy who lives right down the street who can walk here, who doesn't need to be trained. I could walk right in on day one and just pick right up. It's the same stuff, same place. I got my uniform and everything. So I wouldn't even need shirts. Let's see. So there's that. So the way I'm going to kind of do this is the first day, tomorrow being the first of the 3 days. I'm going to wake up on Tuesday mornings and I'm going to kind of straighten up my place, tidy things up, like on a deeper level. I want to just kind of make my place look really spick and span, mop the floor, get everything put away. I've got ice cube trays that need filled right now. I've got all kinds of random things that have just accumulated over the last, Thursday. Like over the last 3 or 4 days, some things have piled up that need to be figured out and organized and put away. Nothing crazy, but if I wake up tomorrow and I tidy up the place, have my coffee, tidy up the place, get down to where everything's in its place, everything's put away, all my clothes are put away, folded, all that stuff, laid out for the week, whatever. My bicycle pack is repacked and ready to go for Friday morning. Mop the floor, clean the place, everything, all that stuff's done. Then I'm going to sit down at my computer and I'll make sure all my accounts are up to date in my account tracker so that I know where my money's going, so I know what bills are coming up. I also, I have all my recurring monthly expenses in there. So all I have to do is look and say, oh, here are the things that are coming up. Boom, boom, boom. Rent being one. There's probably a few others that are coming up in the next week or so. Some decisions I got to make about others. And just kind of, I can look at where I can get an accurate picture of my money. Then I'm going to sit down and organize, I'll go through my fitness stuff and just tidy all that up and just organize, organize my personal stuff and just try to I might even take some drawers out of, I've got this antique desk and all the drawers are just, stuff is just shoved into them. Stuff that needs to be sorted out and filed away a little bit tidier than it is right now. So maybe I'll pick up that and do that for a while. Maybe I probably won't finish it, but maybe I'll just block out, okay, I'm going to do this for an hour at a time. And I'll just pick random hours. I'll be like 1 hour, set a timer, do it until the timer beeps. And things like that, things that I don't really want to do but have to do. If you just set an hour timer like that, start it, do the thing until the timer goes beep, 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 and then put it away. Just wherever you are, just pick, if you got papers all over the floor, file them in folders and, don't just leave it don't make a bigger mess for yourself than what you started out with. But I have found that I've gone through boxes and boxes of stuff in the past that were completely disheveled and disorganized. And just by setting a timer and saying, okay, I'm going to work on this for an hour at a time, even if it's an hour a day or an hour every other day, after a week or two, it's all done. Everything's done. And it's all tidy and it's all organized and you're way better off than you were before. You end up finding things that, oh my God, I've been looking for this for months, and that kind of stuff. And so I might just kind of go and just dig into that a little bit. All these things, there's a lot of there's stuff in these boxes that I want to go through with a more fine-tooth comb. There's these things over here, those little cloth drawers in that camping table. There's stuff in there that's kind of disheveled, and there's things around the house that I want, or things are in the tiny house. There's a few things I want to hang up. I've got some Molly web organizers, tactical. It used to be I used to be able to hang things to do, I could hang my gun holsters on it and stuff like that. It was Molly web. It's basically a panel that has Molly webbing all over it. And you can clip all kinds of things to it, and you can really organize a bunch of grab and go stuff. And I've got 3 of these panels, and I've got the hooks to hang them on, so I can do that. I've got watches I can stick in the Molly webbing. I've got some other things that I probably will never use, but it gives me more places to organize things. Just random little things like that I can do around the place to tidy this up. And maybe I'll document a little bit of what I'm doing. Just, maybe give you guys some ideas. Because I do want to, if I'm going to keep talking about this tiny house living, I don't just want it to be me in a chair, rattling off a bunch of random stuff and then turning off the camera. I want to actually show you here's how I'm doing this. Here's how I'm doing that. Here's, talk about different things. And so, but I got to get my act a little bit more together. I've got it somewhat together, but so that's what tomorrow is going to be. At least at least half of the day will be spent on that, and then sometime in the afternoon I'll gravitate towards my freelance work. And then I'll have my freelance work set up. My computer will be basically, how do I say it? All the software programs will be open and all the windows will be open and everything will be kind of like right there, so that I can just jump in and pick up where I left off. And so starting tomorrow, I'll get into that. I might just work on that right up until the evening, until I just can't do it anymore. And then Wednesday and Thursday, I'll be focused pretty much solely on that stuff and just go as far as I can with it. Friday and Saturday, 40 miles of bicycling each day with back-breaking labor. I'm not feeling it when I come home from this. It's too difficult physically to just sit in front of a computer now and do a bunch more work. So part of what I'm going to do over the next 3 days, starting tomorrow, that's on my to-do list, is to apply to 10 jobs that are walking distance from here. There's a car wash that just opened up. It's literally like a block away. It's the same car wash that a guy offered me a job at when I got the job at the bakery. I got a phone call the weekend after my first week. The dude wanted to extend a job offer to me, and I tried calling him back. I got his voicemail. I left a message. We never actually got in touch, and I didn't dig deep and just keep calling him, and I didn't go ham trying to get that job, because I figured I've already got a job. I'm good. So I was curious to see what they were offering and what kind of hours and all that kind of stuff, but I had already started working at the bakery and I was cool with it, and I was like, yeah, this will work. And I just kind of by the way, this place just opened, like literally in the last week or two. Brand spanking new. There's at least 100 places I can walk to from here, at least. So I'm just going to look and see what's around here and see what I can find. And if I can find a job that's walking distance in the next week or two, and do whatever, whatever comes from that, I could work more hours at a part-time job like that, where I'm walking home a short distance and I'm not completely destroying myself physically by riding a bicycle 40 miles, working 8 hours, and coming home a basket case. So if I can walk 20 minutes to get to a job, work 6 hours, 8 hours, whatever the case may be, turn around and walk home, that's only 9 hours out of my day. And if I can get a job that's not a complete back-breaking ball buster, but more of like a laid-back gig, then I would have the energy to, there's so many different ways I could do this transition here. So I'm open-minded but I got to do something. I can't just sit here and complain about how far the bike ride is, because I don't hate the bike ride, especially today. It was nice out. The warmer it gets, the faster I'm going to get, the better shape. If it gets hot, once it gets into like pea soup, humid and 90 degrees out, the weight will melt off of me, because just the heat alone I'll drop weight like crazy. But when it's cold, my body holds on to fat a lot more than it does when it's warm outside. But I don't know. There's so many different things. I'm gonna stop this video because I'm gonna add more to it, and I'll probably upload in the next day or two. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Adam, back at you again, and I'm just gonna keep adding a few videos together. Probably tomorrow, I'll I'll string them all together into a full video and upload it. I'm on my 3 day window to accomplish things in outside of this bakery gig. I'm trying to, after that week of riding my bicycle 200 miles to go to this job 5 days out of the week, there's no way. I mean, I'm a cyclist and I can handle the bike riding. That's not the issue. My longest 1 day bicycle ride's 174 miles. I can handle a 40-mile ride, especially when you split it in half. 2 20-mile rides in a day isn't that big of a deal, but when you combine that with riding 20 miles from 6:30 in the morning till 8 and then breaking your back to work an exhausting back-breaking job, and it's not on certain days I'm lifting 50-pound bags of sugar, flour, all that kind of stuff. I'm doing all that kind of heavy lifting. But there's a lot of standing in one place for 3 hours at a time and repetitive motion. It's just, this is a job for, teenagers to get their first job and, get some experience working. And I'm not the only old person at the job. I want to call these people old because none of it, we're all young at heart. But, there's people my age there. There's a couple other people there my age that aren't the owner, that are just there to make, for whatever reason, one reason or another, they're getting some income from this, and I don't know how they ended up working there or, the circumstances around it, but I'm not the only one my age. But typically this is like the kind of job where, this is for the young. And I don't know, I'm kind of in this like analysis paralysis mode this week because I'm thinking about, I've been talking about this on more than one video, but I'm not going to show you the graphs and give you the specific numbers right now, but I can pull up a donut chart, a pie chart right now that shows where all my money comes from. And this whole concept of having 6 streams of income, I have at least 6 income streams. And the funny thing is, even if it's an income stream that I get like $100 every 3 months from, every single one of these 6 income streams there's a lesson here that every single one of these income streams, these 6 streams of income, because that was my goal, part of my goal, every single one of the 6 has saved my ass from a problem in one way, shape, or form. Whether it was, how am I going to pay when I was homeless and I'm have an Adobe software subscription so that I can still accomplish things on my Mac and whatnot. Well, the bill was about to be due and I'm like, I don't even have the money to pay that. Sold a few photographs. All of a sudden now I've got the money. It's in the bank. I can pay it. Random things. I've told you the story about how I didn't even know how I was going to get to Texas, and all of a sudden freelance jobs fell into my lap. And down payments for projects fell into my lap. And all of a sudden I had not only enough money to cover the move to Texas, but when the probation officer on my very first day meeting with him demanded that I pay all my fines in one shot, I actually had the money to do that instead of having to go back to prison for not being able to pay a bill. So, every one of these, and the bakery too, has gotten me out of more than one jam, having that income. The chicken bucket, people have dropped money in the chicken bucket when all of a sudden, people have helped me in that regard. That's another form of income. And so, even the smallest of the income streams, the stock photography sales. When I first got out of prison, there was money sitting in there from photo sales that had taken place over the 2 years I was in prison. And I was able to transfer all of that money into my bank account, and use it for things that I needed to do. It just, all these things have, it's like a micro lesson in having more than one stream of income, that if one of them fails you, you've got more to rely on. I don't want to be in the, I never want to be in a position again. Right now I'm not making squat. I'm on pace to make 25,000 in 2025. That's the pace I'm at right now. That's not, I don't even know if I don't even know if I've reached the poverty level yet. I don't even think that I have made enough money to even be in poverty yet. Like, I'm lower than poverty. Like, I don't even know how I'm pulling this off, to be honest. Anything that I've pulled off right now, but things seem to happen when they need to. So I'm trying not to be too terrified of it. But how do I put this? When I was fired from a remote job, and this was not a remote job because, oh, COVID's here and we can't go to the office, so everybody works remote now. This was a job I was hired for in 2019 to work remotely from day one. That was what I negotiated for when I took the job. I didn't have to work remotely, and I didn't have to be in the office. I was allowed to do whatever I felt was best to get the job done. So I struck a balance of, usually I would work from home 4 days a week and go in on Fridays. Sometimes I would, sometimes I would go in 5 days a week to the office. Some days I would go 3 weeks without going in the office. It was up to me. It was, if I could go into the office and move the ball forward on some projects by getting in people face to face instead of trying to Zoom or email with them, sometimes being able to flag somebody down face to face and get something done or accomplished or approved moves the ball forward faster on a project than sitting at home trying to email and Zoom with people. And especially on a big projects with big teams of people. And so I could accomplish some things in person that I couldn't accomplish at home, and vice versa. The peace and quiet and tranquility and working in a nice office space and not being distracted by this open office bullshit where people are, and this particular company wasn't bad in that respect, but I've worked at places that were so freaking loud and full of all this hipster bullshit, like ping pong tables and foosball and air hockey and video games and people rolling around the office on electric scooters, and it would end up, it's like, am I at Chuck E. Cheese or am I at a fucking office? I couldn't tell most of the time. And so, yeah, working from home in a peaceful office, a tranquil office surrounded by nature and silence, and, whether I want to listen to music or I want it to be quiet or I want the lights to be bright or I want it to be dark. If I have control over my environment, I can be more productive on my actual work. And so, drifting away a little bit, but in 2019, I was hired to work remotely for this company. It wasn't it's COVID season, so we're going to work remotely. This wasn't a special thing. It was my job. And then I was fired from a remote job for not taking the fucking vaccine after this company turned into the Jim Jones vaccine Kool-Aid cult. I'm literally going to meetings. We're on Zoom meetings where everybody's working from home and half of them are wearing masks. Like, they're wearing their fucking, like, you thought it was ridiculous, and I still see this today. I literally went out yesterday to get my hair cut, as you could see, and do a couple of other things. I must have seen 20, 30 people wearing their fucking masks. It's fucking February of 2025 and these fucking morons are still walking around with these idiotic masks on their face. Like, when you gonna take that shit off? What the fuck, man? It really is. Like, they're gonna walk around with a mask on their face for the rest of their life because they hate Donald Trump. That's the only explanation for it at this point. Like, even the woman that cut my hair, we were talking about it and we were laughing our ass off, and she was like, yeah, I can't stand these idiots that drive around in their car all by themselves with a mask on their face. And it's like, yeah, well, these people I used to work with, they would show up to a fucking Zoom meeting from their own home, working from home, and half of them would have fucking masks on their face. And I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you fucking people? Like, seriously, you got some mental issues. If, like, oh, you say whatever the fuck you want about me, I would never do that. But I wouldn't go along with this Jim Jones Kool-Aid bullshit. When it was time to drink the Kool-Aid, I said no. And you know what happened to those people when they said no to the Jim Jones Kool-Aid cult. And so, I mean, these people, they started when the vaccine came out, they would all be on the Zoom meeting and they'd be like, look at me, I got my vaccine card, yay! And, you know, like, back in the day when you needed to take a day off to go to the doctor, or you had an appointment, or your kid had a play at school or whatever, you would just say, hey, I'm taking Thursday off, I've got, you know, you might say something like, I got some things I need to do, or I've got an appointment, blah, blah, blah. No, but in this company, when people took a day off to go get their vaccine, they were like, they made sure. It's like that saying, like, how do you know someone's a vegan? Don't worry, they're going to tell you. Well, how do you know somebody got their vaccine? Don't worry, they're going to fucking tell you. They're going to tell you before they go get their shot. They're going to be like, look, I have to leave early on Thursday because I'm going to get my vaccine. And then, like, the next Zoom meeting, they're like, look, I got my vaccine card. Ha ha. Look at me. Look at me. Look at me. And so this is what was going on day after day after day at this fucking ridiculous cult. And I actually liked working with these people when I started working at this company. But when it turned into the Jim Jones fucking cult, I couldn't stand them. I fucking hate these people. I'd never want to work with any of these people again. I never want to talk to any of those fucking dirtbags again, for real. But I kept seeing the writing on the wall. They're going to make an announcement at some point that if you don't get your vaccine, you're going to get fired. And I knew this months in advance. So I was trying to find a way out. But it just wasn't, it wasn't working. So I get this email from HR one day, and they say, we need to know your vaccine status. And I just ignored it. And I got this, and they kept getting more hostile every time I'd get a new email. So finally, I reached out to my boss, the vice president of the company. There was a CEO, there was a president, there was a vice president. The three of them ran the company. I answered pretty much directly to one of those guys. And so I, basically it was straight to the top. And I said, look, dude, I'm like, number one, you're going to know my vaccine status by the time I get done with this email. But I'm like, if you're going to go around and fire everybody because they're not going to take the vaccine, then you can just give me my papers now. Because I'm not going to join this ridiculous Jim Jones Kool-Aid cult. And I said some other things. I probably have a screenshot of the email because it was a pretty scathing email that I sent because I was pissed and I wasn't going along with this shit. Well, he gets back to me and we have this long conversation. We would never do anything like that. We think that your medical freedom, and all of that, like, we don't think it's our place to tell people what they can and can't do with their, if you don't want to take that shot, we respect that decision and blah, blah, blah. And basically, he tried to reassure me that I had nothing to worry about. And I said, well, all right, I'm not taking the shot. I mean, I've already made it pretty obvious, so you can write that down in your little book or whatever. And so now, give it like 1 month. 1 month later, I'm on a vacation and I'm out traveling, and I stop at we stop to go to the bathroom, and we come out. We're in a place that has very bad cell phone reception. All of a sudden, I see that there's a message waiting for me, and I'm like, oh, here we go. Because I saw who it was from. And it was just, hey, Adam, can you give me a call as soon as you can? I already knew what this was going to be. And so, yeah, I pulled over in a place where we had good reception, and I made the phone call, and I found out I'm being fired because I won't take the vaccine. And it was company-wide. Like, it was an email that went out, and it was it wasn't because of my snotty-ass email that I sent. It was a company-wide announcement that they were firing anybody who wouldn't take the vaccine by such and such date. Now, I could have gotten a fake vaccine. I mean, fuck. If you can't forge that stupid-ass vaccine card, if you can't make a forgery of that, especially when you're a graphic artist, then you have absolutely no business being an artist anymore, because I could have forged one of those stupid-ass vaccine cards in about 3 minutes in Photoshop and just sent it to them and said, fuck you. I could have... There's a number of things that I could have done. I could have gone and taken the shot. Well, you can see that ain't gonna fucking happen. So anyway, I was fired from a job where I worked remotely because I wouldn't take the vaccine by a bunch of fucking asshole piece of shit Democrats who thought it was a good idea to ruin anybody's life who wouldn't go along with their fucking bullshit. And so when that happened, I was in a jam because that was my only source of income. So we're circling back to the whole point of this conversation. That was my only source of income. And when I lost it, I ended up in a really bad place because it only took 4 months for my bills. I didn't have, I had barely enough money set aside to last a month or two. And during that, and because I was trying to stretch out my funds and everything, I already had a little bit of credit card debt, but my credit card debt had to do with, I always paid my bills with credit cards and then just paid the credit cards off every month. But I had no, that's a different story, but I had a little bit of debt, not much. My available credit to the amount of debt I probably had $15,000 in available credit, and I probably had $2,000 utilized. So, I had cards. I had a bunch of cards with zero balance that just were there in case I need it. I was trying to build credit at that time in my life. And I was doing a pretty good job, obviously, because I went from having no credit cards in 2020 to having a bunch and having like 15,000 available credit in a span of 2 years. And so, but I was using it smartly. I wasn't just going out and buying a bunch of hookers and blow and fucking spending it wildly. I was paying my bills and doing things and just using that as necessary, and always with the goal of pay your balance in full every month, avoid interest, and avoid fees. Every now and then I might not, but anyway. So by the time I found a new job, because I was paying, what I started to do was pay all my bills on credit cards and then pay the minimum payment on the credit card every month, so that I would, and so I was starting to, by the time I found a new job, they denied my unemployment claim twice. I had to file appeal after appeal after appeal. They kept denying it because companies, I guess, are allowed to fire you for not participating in a medical experiment. That's a legitimate reason to be fired, to where you can't collect unemployment. It's considered insubordination, is what they told me when I applied for unemployment. And so I went from making good money to nothing for months. And by the time I found a new job, I was $10,000 in debt on the credit cards. And I did have money in the bank that was my money, but my choices were spend all the money I have, cash reserve, the money in the bank, spend it all and be completely flat broke before I even found a new job, or delay the inevitable by just shoving money onto debt. Anything I could pay with a credit card, $200 electric bill, pay it on the credit card. When the credit card is due, pay the $50 minimum fee, minimum payment. Do that every month. Keep the money in the bank because actual money might be necessary at some point. And so there might be something that comes up that I can't put on a credit card. I couldn't put rent on a credit card. So the more money I could keep in the bank, the longer I could pay rent. The more money I could put on a credit card, or the more bills I could pay with credit, the longer I would be able to keep a roof over my head. And that was the game I was playing until I could find a new job. When I found the new job, I only had the job for 4 months before the FBI came pounding down my door. In 4 months, I had paid off $4,000 of the $10,000 debt. I was paying $1,000 a month on those credit cards to knock them down. My goal was to be paid off in another 6 months. But then the FBI, had other plans. And so, but I was completely fucked financially. To this day, I'm fucked because of losing that job. Getting fired for not taking a fucking shot started a downward spiral in my life that I'm still suffering today. I don't know. I don't think I would have gotten as angry as I did to lash out the way I did on social media if it weren't for being treated like that by the company that I had busted my ass for and had nothing but accolades. And, I tried to quit the job once because I didn't like the direction they were going, and they enticed me to stay, and they gave me a big raise to stay. Like, that's how much they wanted me there. And then all of a sudden, we're just going to kick you to the fucking curb because you won't go along with Dr. Mengelé's fucking, experimental shot. So, fuck you, you fucking scumbags. I got nothing to say to you but fuck you. All of you motherfuckers, you know who you are. If you're watching, if you somehow stumbled upon this video, I think you're a fucking piece of shit. And you can go fuck yourselves. But that started a downward spiral in my life that just, even though I recovered and I found an even better job, mentally I was done. Like, mentally I was so angry and bitter and just beyond repair at that point. And the lesson there, circling back to the income streams, if I had been able to set up 5 or 6 small income streams during the time that I was working for that company, photography sales, stock photography, freelance jobs, whatever, like 10 other things, YouTube, whatever. If I had just dabbled in other things, now, that's easier said than done when you're working a full-time job that demands a lot of your time. But if I had done that, I could have been in a position where, yeah, fuck you, fire me, I don't care. And I could have lived off of the other 5 income streams without having to go into massive credit card debt, without having to resort to other means and sell off vehicles and do the things that I had to do to survive during that period of time. And so I don't ever want to be in a position again where one group of Jim Jones Kool-Aid cult scumbag pieces of shit can ruin my life because they can just, because I'm working for a bad group of people and they throw me out in the street and I go from thriving to struggling to survive. I never want to be in that position again. So right now I'm struggling to survive. I'm still struggling to survive after that event in the workplace. There's 2 things that happened to me in the course of my career that completely and utterly, like in every molecule of my being, was completely transformed by these 2 events. One was when I worked for this company and they fired me for going to the hospital for the birth of my son. That transformed my whole way of, it transformed me completely in terms of who I was before and who I was after that, in terms of what I would be willing to put up with at a job, how you know, like, how much I will tolerate being treated like garbage in a workplace, those kinds of things. Before, I might have been a little bit more amicable. After the whole getting fired for going to the hospital for the birth of my son, I had no more fucks left to give at that point. I didn't give a fuck. Like, and I and I can tell you that the course of my career went skyrocketing in terms of opportunity. It's like the more that you don't give a fuck, the better you'll do in some lines of work. That's why I didn't have the fear anymore of, I worked for a big bank, and after 3 months, it was such a cutthroat, nasty environment, I walked out the door. Without any other job opportunity or anything, I just said, fuck it, I'm out the door. I can't do this anymore. And as soon as I made that decision, I've talked about this numerous times on other videos, but as soon as I made that decision to walk out the door, all of a sudden things started to flow in my life and opportunities came one after the next. And I got to spend my entire summer hanging out with my son, taking him fucking swimming and going on hikes and bike rides and camping trips and all kinds of stuff. And I was making just as much money, in some cases maybe more, than I was at the bank that I had just walked away from. But when I walked away from the bank that day, I had nothing. It wasn't until, it was like God was nudging me to make that decision, but when he wasn't going to do anything for me until I did. And so, but I can't live my life anymore. If I get to a point, even though I'm struggling right now, let's just say a job falls out of the sky, let's just say a good paying job in my previous line of work somehow magically appears. I'm really not feeling like there's any chance in hell that that's ever going to happen again, because I'm closing in on 600 job applications and I can't get shit. Like, how many do I got to apply to 600 more jobs to be told no before I finally take a hint? You know what I'm saying? Like, if you swiped right on 1,000 women on Tinder and you didn't get one fucking girl to swipe left back, would you finally just accept the fact that you're an ugly piece of shit and you got no fucking chance, so why bother? Like, how many times do you got to swipe right without getting someone to swipe right in return, or whatever, without getting a match? I mean, even a spammy porn bot on those apps that wants you to go to her OnlyFans page or whatever would match with you. But, like, let's say you swipe right 1,000 times and not a single fucking chick. Like maybe the Elephant Man looks better than me. Maybe the Elephant Man is a better catch. Maybe I should just not even try anymore. So, yeah, I'm at over 600 or almost to 600 job applications and I can't find a fucking job. So, like, maybe that's just a sign that it's time to move on. So, but let's just say one of these maybe some magical way I find a job again that pays as much or even in the same ballpark as what I used to make in my software design career. And that would solve my financial problems literally at the first paycheck from a job like that would solve pretty much all of my problems overnight financially. I could go right out and get a car like that day. I could have all of my bills paid for my tiny house for the next month, and I could go get a car on the day I get paid for the first paycheck. Then, if let's say it's by 2 paychecks a month, the next paycheck's going into like savings. It's, and within the 6 months, by the time I moved out of this tiny house, I would have enough money saved up to put a down payment on a freaking house if I could find one that would finance me. So the problem with that is it would be very easy to just take a job like that and then get those golden handcuffs back on my wrist and have one source of income that basically determines my entire destiny and my entire life. And now this company, let's just say, Dr. Fauci, Mengele, whatever the fuck, decide whoever takes his place decides to come up with some other vaccine or some other bullshit scam and threaten all of us again that we're going to lose our job if we don't go along with it this time. You know what I'm saying? Like, who knows what they're going to come up with next. But, it was kind of like a test of the mark of the beast. I think, this whole wearing the masks and the lose your job if you don't take a shot. This was more like a test because they want to pull off this like whole mark of the beast thing, so Satan can come and have his, one world government and have his throne, wherever the fuck that's going to be and all that. But that was kind of like a litmus test to see how many people would actually go along with this bullshit. And so they've got their results. They've seen that about maybe half of society in our country at least will go along with it. The other half is going to be like, go fuck yourself. And that even 3 years after the fact, you're still seeing these dumb motherfuckers walking around with their masks on their face. And so those people are gone. They're just gone. You can fucking tell them anything. As long as it's a Democrat telling it to them, they're going to believe it. They'll believe anything you fucking tell them. You could tell these fucking idiots that the only way to survive the next wave is to put dirty underwear on your face with the brown streak right under your nose, because the brown streak, your shit stain on the back of your fucking tighty whities is what kills the virus. And these fucking people will put their fucking underwear over their head and, sniff the fucking brown streak all day long while they work. Like, that's how dumb these when you see someone wearing a mask in their car by themselves, if Dr. Fauci told them they have to take off their dirty underwear and put it on their face all day, they would do it. They would do it. Look at them. Look at these fucking people. They're dumb. They're dumber than a fucking rock. They would absolutely go along with that shit. So I don't ever, just keep circling back to this. I want to get back on my feet. And the quickest way to do it would be to just pour everything I have into finding a high-paying job and just not stop, apply to 6,000 jobs until I find that one that'll hire me. Or I just keep playing the slow, long game that I'm playing right now to hopefully maybe a year or so from now, if I have 6 streams of income, my goal is not just to have 6 streams of income, but my ultimate goal is that each one of those income streams could support me, could support my bills, could pay my living expenses, could support me. So that if all 6 of those income streams are on fire, I'm living good. But if these Kool-Aid cult Jim Jones mask wearing assholes decide to shut off 5 of them because I got canceled, I got fired for not taking a shot, and the other ways that that the Democrats like to shut people off from society, I might still have one source of income that I could live off of. And so I could be like, haha, bitches, you didn't get me yet. And so that's the reason why you need more than one form of income. And I have, from before I was arrested, I used to sit and brainstorm. Like, what are some things I could do? And I would just come up with ideas and put them in a notepad file, and just leave them there. Does that mean I'm going to do any of them? No, probably not. But I have a list right now of like a couple hundred things that I could just try. But then the other factor, and it's the factor that you have really no control over in terms of it's a finite resource that exists and you can't get any more of it than what exists, and that's time. You can always make more money. You can always find more resources. I could always grow my audience on YouTube by not saying things like, people that drive around in their cars by themselves with masks on their face are fucking retarded. If I wouldn't say things like that, I could get a bigger audience on YouTube. I could make more money doing that. There's a lot of different ways that I could increase money. Time, I can never, no matter, nothing that you do can ever give you more time than you have. It's like the Indian proverb when they talk about, daylight savings time is coming up, and I can't wait for that. I can't wait for my whole body to be out of whack and my circadian rhythms to be screwed up for an entire month until I figure out until my body figures out when it's time to go to bed and wake up again. And with the work schedules and all that being flipped around, can't wait for that shit. Love how they do that to us every 6 months. But anyway, you can't. It's like the Indian said. You can't make a blanket longer by cutting off the blanket at one end and sewing it to the other end. You're still going to, not only are you going to have a blanket that's the same length, but you're going to have a shitty blanket. And that's what they're trying to do with daylight savings time. Oh, we're going to make the day longer. No, you're not. You're taking a blanket, you're cutting off one end and sewing it to the other end, and then saying, look, we made the blanket longer. You're full of shit. You didn't make the blanket longer. You can't add more time than what is there. And so that kind of leads me full circle to what I was talking about with the donut chart and the pie chart. And so I can look at how much money I've made since April of 2023 to today. We're 2 months shy of a year. In fact, we're a little over a month away from a year. So I can look at the last year and I can tell you every penny that came my way. And that includes everything from Chicken Bucket, YouTube, photography sales, stock photography downloads, print sales. I can talk about did I say the digital Chicken Bucket donations, the YouTube money from ad revenue, the bakery, the freelance work, etc. And the biggest chunk of that pie by far, like it's huge compared to the other ones, is the freelance design work that I'm doing. And I think second place is the bakery. I think. Like I'm going by memory right now, but it has to be. And actually the all that money that I stole from you taxpayers, living off the government dole, getting food stamps and all that, that's a small little sliver that doesn't even have the pie piece isn't even big enough to put a number in it. Like the number is, you have to look at the legend under the chart to see what that number actually was. It's a small sliver. And so, but the bakery is second or third place. I'm going to assume second place. It has to be. But when you look at now, if I were to make another donut chart of time that I spend, the donut chart is going to be 75% of my time goes towards this bakery job. Week after week after week, I can look at it. I don't use the same app to track that time versus the money stuff, but I can see it. Month after month after month, this bakery job eats up 2/3 to 3/4 of my time, but gives me maybe 1/4 or probably less than 1/3, but more than 1/4 of my income. So I'm spending 75% of my time to make 25% of my income. And then the other 25% of my time, let's just break it down into those two. Let's forget about the ancillary stuff. If it was just those two sources of income, I'm spending 75% of my time to make 25% of my income and 25% of my time to make 75% of my income. Now, wouldn't it make more sense to spend 75% of my time doing what brings 75% of my income and 25% on this other thing? Even though there's there's risks there. The freelance stuff is not guaranteed. There's a lot of work that goes into that I don't get paid for. I would have to find new clients. I would have to find more jobs. I would have to, I send out I haven't had this problem yet, but in the past I did this for 6 years. You send an invoice out, you don't know when you're going to get paid sometimes. I've had clients, the biggest bank in Pittsburgh, they got bailout money during the financial crash of 2008. They got $7 billion from the federal government. They started taking 4 to 5 months to pay invoices. I would send them an invoice and I would have to bang on their door, their virtual door, for 5 months to get paid for an invoice. Just few $1,000s. And they would act as if I was lucky that they paid it at all. Like they had the most arrogant douchebaggery attitude about paying their bills you could possibly imagine. And one day I had to tell them, I said, what the fuck would you people do at that bank if I was 5 months late on my mortgage? You would have taken my house. And you just got $7 billion from the federal government in bailout money when you didn't even need to be bailed out. And you can't pay a $3,000 invoice in less than 5 months. And you're the fucking bank. So seriously, cut the fucking shit. Write the fucking check and pay your fucking bills. Like, seriously, I'm done with this shit. And, but that's how it was. And so there's that kind of risk when you, and I've got this probation officer, he expects me to, he wants me to I have to send him my paycheck stubs every week or every month. I have to send him proof that I'm working, etc., and he kind of bounces back and forth. Like he would rather me have a 40-hour-a-week, $7 an hour job than put my time and money into making, $100,000 a year doing freelance work. Because that's just, the federal government. I'm not saying that he wants me to fail. And honestly, we have this conversation every few months, and he really isn't threatening me or anything like that. I don't want to give that impression that I'm being threatened with, violating or anything like that. It's just that I can't and I don't want to just quit the day job, the part-time job. I don't want, the money comes in handy. Like I said, every single one of these 6 income streams, as big or small as they are, has bailed me out of a jam more than once. Even if it's one like YouTube, I got $130 and I haven't had a payout since. And next month I'll probably get $100 and something from YouTube. Because it accumulates and you have to get at least $100 before they pay you. So every 4 months I'll get $100 from YouTube right now. But when it comes, the last time it came, it pulled me out of a jam. It helped me with some things that I needed to get right after I got to Texas. There was a lot of money flying out, and that helped put money in. And so I have to figure out a way. And, obviously, I'm going to hear it in the comments and everything else. Just find a job closer to home. Yeah, it's all easier said than done. But this week I've got to do 3 days at the bakery, which means I've got to get up at 5 in the morning. I have to start getting ready at 5:30. I have to be out the door at 6:30. So from 5:30 in the morning, when I start getting ready, I have to ride a bicycle 20 miles. Then I have to do a back-breaking job where I'm physically exhausted at the end of it, only to get changed and get back on a bicycle and ride home, where I'm going to get home at about 6 to 6:30. So that is 13 hours out of my day. 13 hours of nonstop, physically exhausting. Imagine going on a 13-mile hike or a 13-hour hike day after day after day. Doing physical activity, working out for 13 hours a day. Are you going to have the energy when you get home to go find another job? Are you going to have the energy to sit down and do your freelance work? Are you going to be able to do anything? I don't even have the energy to make food that involves heating something up. I can make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, or I can make a wrap. And lately, the peanut butter and jelly has been the go-to because it's easier than doing a wrap. It's less work. And that's where I'm at. And then I fall asleep at 8 o'clock at night. And so now I've got these 3 days to sit and do my work and catch up on the home stuff, cleaning the tiny house, making sure that's tidy and organized and not, because the law of entropy says that without some sort of intervention, everything will just spiral out of control and chaos will ensue. And so you have to reel it back in. You got to reel it. I go doing these crazy 13-hour days and in these 13-hour days, I'm making less than $100 for 13 hours of grueling physical activity. I'm completely wearing myself to the bone to where I have no energy left at all, physically, mentally, or anything, and I didn't even make $100 for it. I can potentially, doing my freelance work, I could make $100 an hour doing that work. I'm not charging that much right now, and I'm not making that much right now, but I could. That's the potential. There's potential there. So I got to figure out, how do I bridge this gap? How do I get from where I am to where I need to be? And part of it is, backing off a little bit on the bakery to do the freelance stuff. But I'm not getting, in order to be really successful at the freelance stuff, I've got to be able to put like 40 hours a week into it. 3 days a week isn't going to be enough for that. Because I've also got, in those 3 days that I have away from the bakery, I also have to, like I said, I have to do laundry. I got to tidy up the place. I got to do dishes. I got to clean. I got to organize. I got to do bicycle maintenance. I've got to do all this stuff. I have it on my list. I got to apply to 10 jobs within walking distance from here. Because if I don't, then there's zero possibility that I can find another part-time job within walking distance of my new place if I don't go out looking for it. So there's all these things, and it's just the one resource that you cannot increase is time. As a successful business owner, you can't increase the amount of time that you have, but you can hire more people to do the things that need to be done. But that's not, that's totally not. That's not even in the realm of possibility for me right now. So I don't get any help other than, when people donate to the digital chicken bucket and stuff like that. That's another thing I have to do. I have to send out thank you emails to people who have done that. I'm a little bit behind there. I've got so many things that need to be done that I'm completely overwhelmed. And I think the biggest challenge of this move so far, and I knew that this would be the case before I moved, and it didn't matter where I moved, because the area where my friend lives in Texas, you have to be rich to live there. Period. You can't, there's nothing to rent and there's nothing to buy unless you're rich. You got to make over $100,000 a year just to be able to potentially live in that area. So I knew when I had to find my own place, there's no possible way in hell that I'll ever be able to find a place close enough to that job that it would be easy to get to and from, because there's nothing available that's affordable to live anywhere near that place. It's like one of the richest areas of Houston. And so there's a Target in the plaza where I work, and there's a Target right here in this neighborhood, and it's like they're two different worlds. I hate to say it, but I ate at Burger King yesterday because I was famished. And that's the dangerous thing. If I'm walking back from that plaza or wherever I have to go run errands, if I'm super, super hungry when I walk by there, I'm going to grab something. And so that's not going to happen for the next couple of weeks because, just money, and I've got plenty of food here, and I'm making it so that I think I have to have a rule that if I leave the house to go grab something at the store or whatever I've got to do, run an errand, go to church, whatever the case may be, never leave on an empty stomach. Because then the temptation's not going to be there to stop and eat. But when I was in Burger King, there was just a bunch of hooligans. I'm just going to say that word. I'm going to call them hooligans. And the whole place was just full of these people. And it was all the same people I would have been in prison with. Just going to leave it at that. Screaming and yelling and throwing shit and fighting, and I'm in the fucking ghetto. Like, somebody told me that this was actually not a bad neighborhood. I'm in the fucking ghetto. I mean, if this isn't the ghetto, I don't want to go to the ghetto in Houston, because this is the fucking ghetto right here where I live. It's bad, this neighborhood. Everywhere I go, like, I'm telling you, the Target in this neighborhood is night and day compared to the Target in the neighborhood where I work. Like, in every possible way you can imagine. Totally different. Totally different. And so I don't know. It's just, it's more for me. For me, it's just, I got to get out of the city. Like, if I can find a way to make my living without having to be in the city, I'm out. Next move will be out in the country. Because that's where I live. That's my speed now. I don't want to be in the city anymore. I like being in the city to, like, do things and be in the city. I'm not afraid of being in the ghetto. I've lived in ghettos before. I've lived in bad neighborhoods a good chunk of my life in Pittsburgh. I've seen it all. I've seen it all. I'm not afraid to be in a bad neighborhood. I don't want to live in the city surrounded by filth and trash and fucking retarded ass shit and broken down ghetto stores and everything else that goes, and the loud noises and gunshots and sirens and everything else that goes with living in the city. You can have it. I don't want that shit anymore. I can't take it anymore. I did it for a long time, and then I said I've had enough. I'm out. And now I'm kind of back in it, and I'm just like, I never missed it in the first place, and I don't want to be in it. I want to get out of here as quick as I can. So I got some things to figure out, and I was kind of watching a video this morning because I'm also in, like, recovery mode. That I'm so physically exhausted that it's hard to get up in the morning sometimes and get moving and get things moving along. And here I've got to look at my... Yeah, I mean, it's still in the morning. It's still morning right now. So I have plenty of time, and I can push myself to work later into the evening today. I'm feeling much better today than yesterday. This is the second of the 3 days off. Tomorrow I'm going to feel wonderful. But then Friday and Saturday I'm going to be completely blown apart again. And so today and tomorrow are my days to make things happen. Yesterday was more get my stuff organized in the house. You see, I got a different chair. Had to take the other chair back to Target, got my hair cut. Speaking of the haircut, I went to Supercuts because it was right next door to Target. And I had to go to Target to take the chair back so that I could get some of the money back. And I don't like this new chair very much, but it's better than the other chair. And I'm not going to spend 20 minutes talking about a chair. But I went to Supercuts, and, like, I haven't even gotten out of bed and did my hair yet. But I got a good haircut. It wasn't a bad haircut at all. And so I always complain about, I don't want to go to Supercuts, blah, blah, blah. The point that I really need to make is that it doesn't matter where you go get your hair cut. The only part of this that matters is who cut your hair. It's just when I was in Jamestown, when there's been other times I've needed a haircut so bad, and I just pushed it off, and finally you wake up one day and you're like, I can't do this anymore. I gotta get my hair cut. I walk into a Supercuts because I know I can just walk in 20 minutes later, walk out with my hair done. And it doesn't matter if it's Supercuts or any of, like, there's 2 high-end salons for men here in Houston that I've been to. One of them I liked. The guy did a really good job cutting my hair, but it was like their special for the first time visitor was like $35, and if I wanted to go back it was going to be like $45-50 for a men's haircut. So I'm like, nah. I went there once, and I'm like, but I don't want to pay $50 to get my hair cut. Come on. So I went to this other place. It was still like an uppity, trendy man salon. But I went there twice, and both times I was like, on the haircut. And it was kind of like, it was like $40, but you get beer. Okay, fine. You get a couple beers for your $40, and you get your hair cut. And I went to Supercuts yesterday just because I was so desperate to get my hair cut. I'm like, I'm going to be right there, just walk in, walk out with a haircut. And she actually did a pretty good job. It was less than $30. Somebody in the comments section suggested a barber shop down the street. It's maybe 2 miles away from me. I could walk to it. He said, whoever it was in the comments said it should be about $16. I looked on that. They had a little bit of a website, not much, but their prices were like, it looked like it was going to be at least $30 to get my hair cut there. And so I'm like, I wasn't opposed to going there. But yesterday, like I said, I just needed to get my hair cut. Supercuts is super close. And I went, and it ended up being all right. So I could actually see myself going back there and get my hair cut by the same girl again. And because I thought she did a good job, and I was in and out quickly, and it just, I don't need all the... They got some weird-ass haircut places right now. They got this one called Sports Clips. I don't know if you've heard of that one. It's basically like Hooters for haircuts. It's just a bunch of big titty women wearing like skin tight shirts. Probably going to get a boob in the face once or twice during your haircut to try and get like they're probably trying to get a $20 tip out of you for a $40 haircut. So you're probably going to get a boob in the face. You're getting cleavage right in front of your face. But it's basically like a bunch of Hooters girls with scissors in their hands cutting your hair. And it's like they got sports ball on. They got all these giant TVs around the place playing sports ball. I went to one once because I needed a haircut. It was one of those situations. There was one right down the street from where I used to live in PA. And it had just opened up. I didn't know anything about it. I walked in. I'm like, oh, what's this? And then I walked out, and I'm like, yeah, we're done here. The only reason I ever went back to the place was because they sold the shampoo and conditioner that I like to use, and they had a good price on it. So once a year, I would buy such a big bottle of this stuff, it would last over a year. So maybe once a year, I would duck in for a minute, grab 2 bottles, or a bottle of the shampoo and a conditioner, the Paul Mitchell Tea Tree shampoo, and I would just pay for that and walk out, but I wouldn't get my hair cut there. So anyway, this is a lot of stuff going on, and so I got to get off my ass, do a couple of physical things around the little house today. And then I got to sit down at my computer and figure out how to get through this phase. But I knew when I moved into the tiny house that I was going to be in for a world of shit in terms of physical exhaustion with this bike riding. And I love riding my bike. And when it's warm outside, I love this bike ride. I have no problem with the bike ride itself. The problem is... this part-time job is eating away a lot of my time. If it's an 8-hour shift, it's a 14-hour day of physical exhaustion in order to be able to do it. So it's not just the 8 hours that you're there. And this is a hard job to have an 8-hour shift at. If you did a 5 or 6 hour shift, it goes by a little quicker. But if you're in that thing for 8 hours... and you're lucky to get a 15-minute break during that 8 hours, that's a tough job to get through a day at. When I'm doing my freelance work, 8 hours goes by like that, and I don't even notice that 8 hours went by. And I'm like, whoa, where'd the time go? When you're there, 8 hours goes by and you look at the clock and only 15 minutes actually passed. And so it's so much different. And it's just the exhaustion level it's not sustainable. Financially, I can't afford to live even in this tiny little house if that's my only income. I can't make enough from that job to survive this. And it's taking up like 75% of my time. The freelance work and all the other things that I do, including making these videos, takes up the other 25% of my time. So 3/4 of my time that's available to me is eaten up by a job that I can't even survive off of. And on top of that, I'm so physically exhausted by the end of it that I can't even bring myself to work the amount of hours that I have to work for the stuff that can actually not only pay my bills, but allow me to thrive. And so somehow I have to find a way to break that cycle and move to where I could put more time on the things that are going to be more beneficial and less time on the things that are wearing me down. And it's not a complaint. Like, this isn't, I'm not blaming anybody. There's no, like, it's nobody's fault but my own. But I'm just sharing this with you as, like, these are the struggles that you'll face if if you were somebody who spoke out against Joe Biden and his bullshit administration. This is the kind of hell that they're going to put you through for the rest of your life. And so you either have to get up and stand up and be willing to fight for your survival, or, I mean, I don't know. I know that there's a lot of people who out there who, if they have gone through the shit I've been through in the last few years, they'd have shot themselves in the head by now and ended it. To go from living a really good life to being in the gutter it's a low blow. It's a low blow. And on top of that, when you had a good life and you end up in the gutter, everybody in your life who you thought might give a shit about you, they don't. They don't. I don't have any, there's nobody in my entire family who I'd ever speak to again. There's nobody in my entire family who would ever want to speak to me again. My children, that's it. My 2 kids. It's the only people that I'm related to that I'll ever have a conversation with for the rest of my life. That's 100% for sure. Anybody who ever gave a shit about me and my family, they're all dead. So, that's that. But your friends, I had lots of friends. And during 2020 and all that COVID bullshit, I lost a lot of friends because, everybody picked a side. And I picked the right side. The people who were on the wrong side, I don't talk to those people anymore. And then when you go to jail for something, anybody who you thought had your back don't. They don't. I have like 2 friends in the world now. Aside from, I have 2 friends in the world that were friends of mine before all this shit happened. They're still friends. Everybody else, they're gone. And so, that's another thing that you got to figure out how to deal with. I've got to, rebuild friendships. I have to start over. And yes, I have. And I have new friends. And I have people that have come into my life after all of this stuff went down that are good people. And I enjoy their friendship. And, there's a lot of good things happening in that department. But, all I'm doing here is documenting what you'll go through and the kinds of experiences that you'll have if you're in a situation like I'm in. And so with that, I'm into an hour of just rambling about all kinds of random shit. I got to try and get this more structured and focused on these videos because that'll help with the algorithms and stuff. I'm sure this one will get flagged because I talked about the mask-wearing morons. So I might not even make any money off of this, but I don't care. I'm not doing it for the money. So anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. We'll talk. Peace out. Well, I'm not actually going to hang up the video just yet because there was something that I did start talking about. And it was in a video that I watched this morning while I was waking up to the world. I was still laying in bed, but it was like 6 in the morning. And I didn't want to get up yet, but I didn't want to go back to sleep. And so I was watching a video on YouTube. And they were talking about the point that stuck to me. The part of it that stuck in my mind was talking about analysis paralysis, where you sit around thinking about everything too much, but you don't get up and do anything. And I can definitely say that I've been getting up and doing stuff. I have a list of everything I did yesterday, everything I accomplished yesterday. And there's a lot of stuff. I mean, this list, I made myself a quick little to-do list for the day, and I got half of the stuff on it done. And that was the size of the list when I looked at it. I'm like, yeah, there's no way I can get all this done today. but let's just see how much I can get done. And by the end of the day, in fact, there's things I did last night that I haven't even crossed off the list right now, that when I get up and sit in front of my computer in a few minutes, I'm gonna cross those off and actually look, wow, you got at least half, if not more than half of the things done on this list. Some things I'll never have to do again. They're one and done. Some of them were just things that had to be done. But there's a whole bunch of stuff that still has to be done. And I do sit around. They were talking about like this duality, that if you need the balance in your life, that they were talking about a lot of polar opposites, love and hate, action and inaction, things like that. And when we're talking about the action and inaction, they were kind of saying that being stuck in that, there's a lot of times where if you get really nervous or you feel overwhelmed, you might have a tendency to get stuck in what's called analysis paralysis, where you just sit around thinking about things and you sit there dwelling on everything that's on your plate, and that you're overwhelmed and that you can't, how am I going to get through this? How am I going to do this? How am I going to get where I need to go? And sometimes you just feel stuck. And then that feeling of being stuck, you just sit there and you don't take action. And so this video was talking about, in that situation, the best thing to do is take action, even if it's a baby step. So sometimes if I get stuck in that kind of a thing, I'll sit down to do a task and I'll set a timer and I'll say 1 hour. Do this for 1 hour. If you can't get it done in an hour, stop, take a break. Even if you take a break for an hour, go back and do it again, do it again, do it again. Eventually you'll get to the point where the hour timer ends on your task or whatever your job is. Let's say I'm working, go work on your freelance stuff for an hour. I've got 20 hours left to finish a project. An hour's not going to do it. But if I do that a couple times, all of a sudden I'll do a 4-hour stint where I don't need to leave my desk for any more than maybe to go to the bathroom or get a drink and just, get out of the chair. You should get out of your chair every hour or two just to get out of the chair. So there's something to be said about getting started will actually do more for you than you think. But then there's this other side of it where you get stuck in action. You're just busy little bees, buzz, and you're just constantly work. And you never actually take time to sit down and think about what you're doing, or you never take time to sit and plan anything out, or you don't sit and focus on the long picture, or you end up working so hard, but then other things are falling off the cliff because they're being neglected, because you're working on one or two things very, very hard, and all these other things are being neglected because you're not even focused there, you're not thinking about them, etc., etc. And so this video, the point they were making is that both sides of that equation are just as bad as the other. Sitting around doing nothing when you've got a pile of stuff in front of you is bad, but working feverishly on things with no analysis about where you should spend your time most effectively, and without taking the time to sit and reflect about what you're doing, is also just as bad for you. And so the point of the video was if you find yourself on one side of that fence or the other, to just take steps in the right direction. So if you're this workaholic, if you're in that workaholic mode, I've been there. You start a new job. If I got a software gig at a, whatever kind size company, but a high paying software job, I could see myself getting sucked into that job to the point where I realize, oh my God, it's been 3 weeks. I didn't even do my laundry. You know what I'm saying? Because you're trying to make a good impression. You're putting in the hours, you're putting in the time, you're dedicated, you're answering every email, phone call, you're getting on Zoom calls at 1 a.m, or answering emails at 1 a.m, even though you shouldn't be. And I'm not saying that I would do that, but I'm just saying that you can get sucked into something to where you're pouring so much time into it that everything else in your life is getting neglected, and you're not even like sitting back to reflect or to try and plan or be strategic about things. And on the flip side, you can be stuck in your chair like I look like I am right now, in analysis paralysis, where you just sit there thinking about all the stuff that you have to get done, but you don't have the energy or the willpower to do it. And so both of those are completely unhealthy. And this whole video was talking about finding balance in things. And that was the one part of a many part video. This video is probably an hour long, but it was the one part of the video that really stood out to me, because I've been in both situations. I've worked on projects or jobs that completely consumed me to the point where everything else in my life was falling apart, because I was just pouring all of my time into something that I thought was important. And on the flip side, I've been stuck to where I just sit and do nothing because I'm so overwhelmed by it all that I don't even know where to begin. And so this video, not only were the suggestions in the video making sense, but I can say that these are the kinds of things I've had to do when I'm stuck like that on one or the other. If you're working at a job that completely consumes you to where you can't get anything done in your life outside of it because you're pouring in, I talked about the bakery job being 75% of my productive time during the course of a week. I'm talking about jobs that are like 90 to 95% of your productive time during the course of a week. And you literally, like, you go 3 weeks and you run out of underwear because you didn't do laundry for 3 weeks, and you've got this mountain of clothes. Your laundry baskets are not only full, you've got 4 times more clothes than would fit in a laundry basket, and now you've got to figure out how to spend an entire day of your life doing laundry because you just neglected it because you were so focused on this other stuff. And so when you're in that overwork phase where you're just banging out hours, 80 hours a week on whatever, and you're not getting everything done because you're just, you're pouring all your time into one thing or another. One of the things you might want to do to take steps in the right direction is start your day off by planning. Like, say, I'm going to take the first hour or so of my day and just kind of think everything through and try to make a list of like everything I need to get done and all the things that are being neglected, and just kind of like plan it out a little bit so that I can still move the ball forward on the important thing that's taken up all my time, but I can also not drop the ball on some other things that need to be done. And on the flip side, like I said a few minutes ago, if you're in that analysis paralysis phase, the best thing to do is to pick something that's important and start working on it. Anything, really. And just start working on it. Set a timer on your phone. You probably have a clock app that came with your phone. It's probably got a countdown timer. Set it for an hour. Sit down, work. As soon as you start that timer, work. One of the easiest ways to do it for me is, if I'm really not feeling it, open up a podcast, open up a video, open up something that you can set off to the side and actually listen to while you work. Sometimes it's music, sometimes it's a podcast, sometimes it's a YouTube video like I shoot, where it's just somebody sitting in front of a camera and talking, so it's a video, but you don't have to watch it because it's just a dude or a girl sitting in front of a microphone at a desk. And so there's nothing to see. You just hear it. You just need to hear it. And so pick something like that that's an hour long or longer, and then work for an hour while you listen to that. So you've got something else to keep your mind away from the fact that you're doing something you might not want to do. And then take a break, however long of a break you need, do it again. And you'll find out that you can put in 8 to 10 hours in a day, because the more you do it, kind of like when I'm writing code and doing that kind of stuff for a website, it can be tedious and boring. So if I'm doing something like listening to a podcast while I do it, it helps with the tedious nature of it and the boring part of it. But then I get into that flow state where I'm making progress. And so the breaks, instead of taking an hour break, I'll take a half hour break. Then I'll take a 10-minute break. And then I'm just going up to go to the bathroom and get a drink, come back. And so you get into that rhythm, and now I'm like, okay, now I'm in it. Now I'm in it. I'm making progress. I'm getting things done. You know, the locomotive takes a while to get up to speed, but once it's up to speed, it's hard to stop. And so sometimes taking action is the best course of action when you're in a state of paralysis. And sometimes if you're working too hard, you got to slow down and take time to do some analysis and reflecting and planning and kind of evaluating, you know, is it worth? How many workaholics do you know that never see their children? You know, how many workaholics, maybe a guy has a housewife and the guy works 100 hours a week at his job and he sees the kids like once a week on Saturday, in between checking his emails and going to Zoom meetings on Saturday. You know what I mean? Like, maybe we'll all go to the beach or something for an afternoon once or twice a month, and that's how much he sees his kids, because he's a workaholic. Like, you need to slow the fuck down because all of a sudden your kids are going to be 18 years old and you don't even know them. And so neither end of this, all these different spectrums that he talked about in this video, the polar opposites, they, neither one of them, you don't want to live on either end of the spectrum in these dualities. You want to kind of have a balance. And so this was just the one that stood out to me. And I meant to talk about it in the previous video a few minutes ago, but you know, I go off on so many tangents if I don't have notes in front of me and I'm just pulling stuff out of my brain. That's why these videos can be so long. But anyway, I'm going to let it go. I'll probably shoot another one at some point, string them all together, and put up a 2-hour video sometime Thursday or Friday. Peace out. What's going on? Once again, it's your boy Adam, and this is another segment of a video that I've been stitching together throughout the week. And definitely, it's Saturday. I think the last video I shot was Tuesday or Wednesday. I don't even really know. I'll have to go back and see. I don't even remember what I talked about. It was a pretty eventful week. I had to buckle down and try to get something out the door by the end of the month. I got so much to talk about. I didn't take any notes. I'll just cut by the play-by-play of what's going on and, you know, how things are going in terms of trying to get back on my feet, build up this tiny house, and we'll just go from there. So yeah, to finish up, I wanted to get a website launched for a client, and I was in the home stretch, and there wasn't a whole lot of work to do, but the work left is tedious. Just tedious little CSS and HTML tweaks, having to refresh a page over and over and over again, tweak this, tweak that, trying to match in code the layout that I designed in a prototyping tool. And so I'm just taking a screenshot, measuring things, tweak the code, change it, refresh, screenshot, measure it, over and over and over, and making sure that this website looks good no matter what width the screen is that you're looking at it on. Whether it's a giant monitor that's, you know, 5,000 pixels wide, down to a tiny iPhone SE, which is about 320 pixels wide. And so I did it. I got it done. And I got it launched. I wanted to be able to finish it so that I could send an invoice out, etc., on the last day of February or sooner. And I actually got it done Thursday night, minus a few tweaks. When you switch the domain name and turn all that stuff on, and you start, you know, there are little hiccups and things that go along with launching a website, especially a soft launch. You know, I didn't catch every little bug and every little glitch that might take place, but over the next day, on Friday, in spite of having to go on my 40-mile bicycle commute and go to the job, I was still able to come back and fix some of the things that just needed tinkering with. It's a small website. It's a starter website for this client, and it's helping him get off the ground and start putting his thoughts together about, what does he want to do with this next. And we've already got a plan for phase 2, phase 3, etc. And we're going to build this thing out, and it's actually going to be a pretty robust website with a lot of content on it that links out to a lot of different social media platforms, videos, podcasts, and all kinds of things that this client of mine is trying to put out in the world. And so I'm going to share all of that with you in the next few weeks. In fact, there's a video that I've been holding back sharing with you guys because I want to share it. I want him to be able to share it and promote it on his site first, and show it to the people he wants to show it to before I do. So I have the video. I've had it for months, but I've held back on sharing it with everybody. But it's a really cool video. I think you guys will enjoy it. So that was holding me back from wanting to do video content and things like that. I just had to buckle down and get that done. 2 days in a row of the 40-mile bicycle commute. Yesterday was pretty uneventful. Pretty easy ride to and from. The weather in Houston right now is beautiful. I think it was 70. The mornings are chilly enough that I got to wear a long sleeve jersey yesterday. I mean, about 50 degrees. So normally I would just wear a t-shirt, but on a 20-mile ride at 50 degrees, I'm going to get a little bit more chilly. So 55 and up, that's kind of where I'm drawing the line of, okay, take off the long sleeve, wear a t-shirt on a 20-plus mile ride. So 77 degrees on the way home yesterday, 83 on the way home today. Bright and sunny, beautiful. So yesterday was pretty uneventful. I'm a little bit energetic now because of what happened this afternoon, and I'll get into that in a minute. No, yesterday I was dead to the world when I came home. I was so tired. This morning I didn't want to get up and go. I was really beat. I could barely get out of bed this morning and get my stuff together and get out on the road on time. But I did it. On the way to work this morning, I'm about 12 miles into the 21-mile ride, and I'm going down the road, and I'm coming into the Woodlands, and I felt like I had to leave a little fart, and I'm like, hey, it might give me a little speed boost, a little bit of wind coming out the back, a little rocket boost going down the road. Okay, and then I'm like, I start to, open up the rocket, and I'm like, wait a minute. That's not a fart. Let's hold up. Red alert. Code brown. Stop it. So I had to the turtle was trying to poke its head out, and I'm like, you got to get the fuck back in there. We're not even close to the office yet. So get back in there. You're not coming out yet. Not until we get to work. And so normally I wouldn't even share that with everybody on YouTube. But as I'm coming into work, I see a cop car with its lights on up ahead, and I'm like, what the F? And all of a sudden I get up to a spot, there's sawhorses and gates going across the road. The road's completely closed. And I'm like, shit. But I have this phone mounted on my handlebars, and I have an app to keep the screen turned on all the time. I've got Google Maps right in front of me. And I don't use the navigation anymore. I just have Google Maps turned on for this kind of a reason. I had to take a detour. I really didn't know where to go, but I could sit there and pinch and zoom with my fingers while I'm riding and just kind of like, okay, I'll go that way. That road connects to that road, and I can kind of find my way through. And so as I'm trying to find my way through, they literally have the entire Woodlands closed, split in half. They have the entire, it's like you draw a line halfway through the Woodlands from top to bottom and just cut a line straight through the woodlands. You can't cross from one side to the other. And now I'm like, how the fuck am I going to get to work today? What the hell? There's a marathon going on. And so I'm like, oh, come the fuck on. How am I going to get to... And I've got other marathon stories about how I got blocked in Pittsburgh one day. There's another marathon story about when they... Marathons and bicycle races. Now, I've been in enough bicycle races in my life that I'm not going to get all bent out of shape that the city closes down a bunch of roads and doesn't let you cross the street to get from point A to B because there's a bicycle race going on. I've been in lots of bicycle races, so I can't complain. I've been the guy closing down your city before. I've been in races. I've done these things. I've done the 5K races. I used to be an athlete. I've done all this stuff. So I'm not mad, but I'm upset because I can't get to work. And so I get to where I think there's a place that I can cross. There's a sign that says flagman ahead. And I get up there and I stop and I yell to the guy across the road. I'm like, is it okay to cross here? And he goes, not yet, it's not. And I'm like, but at some point. He goes, yeah. And so we had a little bit of, we laughed a little bit back and forth. He's like, just wait for this group of runners to come through and I'll flag you across. I'm like, no hurry, dude. I'm like, I just got to get to work today, that's all. And I don't know how I'm going to do it. And I look over and there's a guy holding up a sign, there's a big crowd on the side of the road. And there's a guy holding up a big, huge hand-painted sign for the runners to see as the runners are coming through. And it says on his sign, never trust a fart. And I look at the guy and I'm like, I was thinking the exact same thing myself not even 5 minutes ago. Never trust a fart. If there were ever words to live by that were more true than that, I don't even know what they are. It's probably in the Bible somewhere. The book of Acts, chapter 3, verse 6 and 7. Thou shalt not trust the mutterings of thine own ass. Never trust a fart. So, and I'm like, how the hell did I almost trust a fart, but then was like, nope. That's not a fart. Close that back up. Close that up. Just keep pedaling. Use those glutes. Keep that thing under wraps till we get to where we gotta go. And then I get cut off and I'm unable to get where I gotta go. And there's a guy holding up a sign right in front of me. It says, never trust a fart. I'm like, well, Jesus talks to me every day in strange and mysterious ways, and today was no exception, that's for sure. So the flagman flags me across, and I cross the street. I get on one of the bicycle paths, and it takes me to another road that I have to cross, which is also closed off. And I had to wait for a very large group of runners. I had to wait there for about 10 minutes or more. And so whatever. So finally I got to cross the marathon path, and now I'm on the opposite side of the big gouge going through the woodlands. I'm on the right side that I have to be on. And I hopped on another one of the bicycle paths, and I weaseled my way kind of diagonally off the main roads to get up to where I had to get to be able to get on the main road that would take me directly into work. And I really didn't have any problems. And by the time I got to work, I was probably running about 5 minutes earlier off my normal pace because I'm getting a little bit stronger every time I do this. And I wasn't even really trying that hard this morning because when it's cold, the colder it is, the more I shut down and have no energy. The colder it is, the less I can do in terms of, I can barely get through exercise when it's cold. My body just doesn't work when it's cold. And even 50 degrees, I am going to be much better at 95 degrees and massive humidity when it comes to stuff like that. Everybody tells me here, and I'm like, I think I know myself better than you do, so, thanks for the advice, but I don't need it. I do much better when it's 95 degrees out and humid than 50 degrees having to wear a long sleeve shirt any day of the week. There's no, now, if it's 95 degrees like 10 days in a row, which in Houston, I think it lasts for like 2 or 3 months like that. After about, 10, 15 days in a row, I might be like, a 50-degree day wouldn't be so bad right now. I definitely would get to that point. But I will not be as fast. And my muscles won't work as good if it's cold. Even 50 degrees or below. 30 degrees, oh my God, when it's like 20 degrees out, I can barely do it. It wears me out so bad. So anyway, I get to work 8 hours of back-breaking work at the bakery. It went by pretty quick. No drama. I don't mind the job. I like the people I work with. I don't have any beef, little tiny things here and there. We all get believe me, everybody there gets irritated about something once in a while here and there. It's just, it's a job. So that, any job you're ever going to have is going to be like that. So, but you can't really ask for anything more than working with people that you like. That's a big deal. The older you get, the more you understand how important that is. Maybe when you're young in your career and you just want to get your resume built, you'll put up with some bullshit, and you might not know any better. But I've worked at toxic workplaces making well over 6 figures, and I've worked at minimum wage jobs, and I would rather work a minimum wage job with people I like to work with than a 6-figure toxic wasteland job in a cutthroat corporate environment where you come home just wanting to slit your wrists every day because you're so stressed out. And so I'll just leave it at that. I came out of work today, foreshadowing today, never trust a fart. And I come out of work today to a total blowout. To a total blowout. I come up to my bicycle and I worked really hard today. It's 4:00 in the afternoon. I'm ready to go home. I got a long bike ride ahead of me. I grab my bicycle, front tire's flat. And I'm like, son of a bitch. It wasn't flat on the way in. And back in my mind, I already know what's going on. This already happened. I have already shot myself in the foot twice now with this same thing. So all I can say is if your gut instinct tells you something's wrong, chances are you need to pay attention to that and follow your instincts. So a while back, I noticed, now when I moved to Texas on my bicycle, the Red Rocket, the bicycle you've seen in some of the videos, I had some pretty old tires on this bike. And I mean old. Like, these tires have had thousands of miles on them, and they're just old. They're really durable, good tires that will last a long time, but these were pushing it. And I started commuting back and forth to work. Well, it was about a month in, maybe, to the new job. A few weeks, maybe a month, I don't know. And I noticed my back tire was starting to look a little suspect. And I started noticing cracks in the rubber and just the things that tell you this tire is just time to go. And I noticed a little bulge in the sidewall. And so I was like, time to order new tires. So I ordered a set of brand new tires. And when the tires came, I was like, they're holding up. I'm just going to keep riding. Well, one day, I go to work, and my back tire's flat in the garage. And I take the tire off. I notice that the hole in the inner tube is big. And I'm like, this is this is a bad thing. And so, but I was in a hurry and I quickly just changed the tube and put the same tire back on, even though I knew better. And just before I was about to leave the garage, I noticed that the inner tube was popping out the side of the tire. And I quickly pushed the valve stem down, and let all the air out before the inner tube exploded. And what had happened, this tire was so old that the beads started to separate from the tire, and a hole in the sidewall appeared, and the inner tube just bulged right out the side of the tire and went boom, and all the air came out. And so I put on the brand new tire, put an inner tube in, and other than the flat tire that you saw me get when I ran over a nail, that tire's been absolutely fine since. Well, the front tires don't take as much abuse. And the tread on the front tire was actually pretty decent. The tires were the same age. But, you know, the front tire, when I was living at my friend's house last September, October, that front tire still looked pretty good. Well, about 2 weeks ago, I started looking at my front tire, and I'm like, that's starting to look a little suspect. As I'm riding, I can see things. When I look at the tire up close, the same thing. I'm seeing cracks in the rubber, signs of dry rot. I'm seeing, and then I saw a tiny little bulge. Tiny, though. Not even as bad as the one on my back tire was that one day. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, maybe I should order another set of these tires. Even though I've got a brand new one of the set, I still have an unused tire here. So anyway, I've been looking at that for like 2 weeks, and I keep, saying, I'm going to take the tire that's on the back wheel of the bike right now, move it to the front, put the brand new tire on the back wheel, have a because you're more likely to have a flat on the back tire than the front. Way more likely. And so the back tire, that one that was brand new back in September, October, that one's starting to wear down a bit. But the front tire was starting to look like, whoa. Not bad, but I got to change it within the next month bad. But I didn't feel like I needed to be in that much of a hurry. But I'm also thinking I got to order 2 more tires. I've got to get brake pads. That's over $100 right there. So I queued up an Amazon order, but money's so tight right now, I never pulled the trigger on it. And it's going to take 2-3 weeks for these tires to show up if I ordered the tires that I'm thinking of ordering. Now I'm not 100% sure. So today, if you watched my video a while back where I showed you what I carry in my backpack, I'm prepared for all this shit. So I was pissed. I was like, fuck. It's 4 o'clock. I just want to go home. I've got a flat tire on the front. Pull the wheel off. Take the tire off the rim. And I'm like, oh, wow. I realized I have not taken the tire off of this front wheel since... I remember the last time I took the front tire off that rim, and it was July of 2015. July 4th, 2015. There's a reason why I remember that date. It has nothing to do with cycling. I was on an 800-mile bike ride when it happened, but I got a flat tire on the front. And that's the last time I changed that front tire on that bike. Same tire, so I don't even know how old the tire is, but that's the last time I took the tire off the rim. And so as I'm taking the tire off the rim, I'm seeing, wow, the rubber, the bead, like there's a lot of like, holy shit going on as I'm looking at this tire. And sure enough, I'm feeling my finger around and I see a little rip in the sidewall of the tire from just the tire being so old that the bead finally just started to separate from the tire. Same exact thing that happened a number of months ago. But that was back in like September, so October, November, December, January, February. It's been 5 months since this happened at my friend's house. I've been riding that front tire for the last 5 months. But now that I'm putting 40 miles a day every time I go to this job, wear and tear and things are going to pop up. Things are going to be problems are going to come to the surface a lot faster when you're putting 40 miles a day on your bike, even if it's not every single day. But you start going on 20-mile rides, 40-mile rides over and over and over again. Problems that were small problems will turn into big problems quick. And so, luckily, I have a folding tire, Kevlar bead tire. You saw it in my backpack when I was going through my gear. So I'm like, great. I've had that tire for a really long time. I've never used it. It's always just been folded up and put in my backpack in case I need it. And so I put the tire on, put a new inner tube on, just always carry a new inner tube. So the time it took me from when I noticed it was a flat tire to when I got the tire fixed, had air, and was back ready to ride my bike was about 10 minutes. So it was only 10 minutes of my day to change a tire. I get all my stuff together. I start riding. Now, this tire that I changed to, the tires that I normally have on this bike are 28 millimeters wide. The rim size is a 700C road bike rim. That's a common road bike size. And then the second number on the tire is the width. That you could, back in the day, you could go all the way down to like an 18 millimeter width, 700C. That's the diameter of the wheel, and the second number is the width of the tire. So 700 by 18 would be what road racers were rocking back in the day. Now road racing tires on modern bikes start at about 700 by 28, so 28 millimeters. With tire, well, my tires on this bike are typically 28 millimeters. That's what I ride. The brand new tires that I bought back in September were 28 millimeters. The wider tires give you more comfort, more durability. They'll handle shocks a little bit better. You go over a pothole, things like that, imperfections in the road. It's just you give up some of the rolling resistance, because when you're doing a 700 by 18 millimeter tire, you're putting 120 pounds of pressure in that tire. It's a rock. 700 by 28, these tires have a max rating of 100 PSI, and I put 100 in them when I ride. But you get better grip on the road. The wider the tire, the more of the tire is in contact with the road, so when you're going around corners, you have better grip. It's just a little bit safer. It just feels better, less likely to get a flat, and these are very highly, the tires that I normally have on this bike are highly puncture resistant. I'll get maybe one flat tire in 1,000 miles. Now, today's flat tire had nothing to do with the tire, had to do with the fact that this tire probably has over almost 2,000 to 3,000 miles on it. It's way past its prime, and it's been sitting around for years and years without the bike even being ridden, so dry rot had set in. It's a miracle that the tire even lasted as long as it did, to be honest. So I was just waiting for this to happen. I just didn't want it to happen today. In fact, I had thought I should probably start piddling with my bikes tomorrow. And get that tire off the bike before it becomes a problem. Well, today became a problem. So anyway, I put the new tire on. The new tire is a 25 millimeter width. That's 3 millimeters. The difference of 3 millimeters in the width of the tire. Okay, now this is what's significant about that. As I'm riding home, the tire has a smooth tread, 25 millimeter versus 28 millimeter. But on my way home, I'm like, man, I really feel a difference. You know, when you ride a bike as much as I've been riding a bike, you notice the smallest things. It's just like a race car driver. A race car driver will notice, a Formula One race car driver will notice a 2 pound per inch pressure change in a tire. A race car driver will know without having to look at a clock when they shaved 1/10 of a second off of their lap time. That's how in tune to the car that they are. And when you ride a bicycle as much as I am right now, you're in tune to the bicycle. You know, you feel every little thing. Like, you notice every little thing that's going on with the bike. And right away, I'm like, man, this is fast. I'm feeling fast right now. And I'm noticing it. And I'm like, I'm zooming down roads where some of the roads where I'm normally maxing out and having a hard time holding my average speed at about 16 to 18 miles an hour, I'm going 25. And there are other stretches where I'm normally going like 19, 20, I'm going like 27. There's another stretch that normally takes me 20 minutes to go from this spot to that spot. I did it in about 16 minutes, 4 minutes faster. The whole way home, the whole 20 miles on the way home, I'm like, wow, I'm flying. And there's a couple of stretches where I'm just like, I'm flying. I feel like I just put a rocket booster on the back of this bike. And it's that front tire, and I could feel it. I could feel that the front wheel was gliding a lot smoother and a lot faster than it has since I moved to Texas. Like, I noticed a huge difference on the front wheel. And part of it is because the tire up front is brand new, stiffer sidewall, better rubber compound, it holds its shape better, and all the things that a brand new tire is going to give you. But even just 3 millimeters difference in the width of the tire. I didn't even have full pressure in the tire because I used my CO2 cartridge to pop it up. And that only probably got me 80 to 85 PSI. If I pumped that up to 100 or 120 PSI, would have been going even faster. But when I got home, I shaved 13 minutes off of my normal time to come home. I was 13 minutes faster over a 20-mile stretch just because I changed the front tire of my bike. Just putting on not even changing both tires, but changing the front tire only shaved 13 minutes off of my normal time just by putting a different tire on the bike. So this is like a thing about bicycles. Like, you never really know. One tiny little change is going to make such a big difference over a long ride like that. Even the app that I used to track my cycling was like, dude, what did you do? Like, you're never this fast. What the hell happened? And so I'm going to take the tire off, unfortunately, because it's a spare tire. It's a folding tire. I don't want to wear that tire out. I need a folding tire. But now my dilemma is, and I have a feeling these tires are more expensive, but I could get another one of these folding tires or a set of 2 and put these tires on this bike and see how they do. And, take the back tire off. But I think I want to keep the Red Rocket with the tires that I normally use on it. The puncture resistant, the tank tires. Even if it goes a little bit slow, even if I lose a little bit of speed, I'm gaining reliability of really not having to worry about flat. Flat tires are very rare with the tires that I normally put on that bike. I can go 1,500 miles without getting a flat tire. That's rare. That's hard to find a good tire like that. So, but I'm wondering if I get a brand new tire and put it up front, will that give me the same edge and the same advantage and speed that I had today? But anyway, this whole incident told me that tomorrow I got to stop what I'm doing. I may not even go to church because this has to be done. I probably am going to have to go to work on Monday, and I'm going to have a bicycle that's reliable. And I've been putting a lot of maintenance off. I've been putting things off. I've got parts that I've got to put on the bike, and I've got just a full tune-up and a full, like, new brake cables, new derailleur cables, the tire stuff that I want to do. I gotta do. There's some other things. There are derailleur pulleys, and cleaning the drivetrain and just things like that, and tightening some things. My handlebars are really creaky. I could loosen up the handlebars, inject a little bit of grease in where the stem clamps down, get that grease worked in and tighten it all back down. My handlebars will probably stop creaking when I ride. Just tiny, like, lots of little maintenance things that I need to get done, and just a general, like, top to bottom. A clean bike is a happy bike if I clean the bicycle thoroughly. But I need to make sure that I have all day to do this, even though it's probably not going to take all day, because I'm a good mechanic when it comes to bicycles. I do have most of the tools that I need to do what I want to do, but I need to have a window of time in case something goes wrong. That's where I'm getting nervous about it. If everything goes perfect, I might be able to do everything that I need to do in an hour, maybe 2 hours. But I need to plan on 8 hours. And so I'm thinking, if I go to church at 11, I'm not going to be back till like 2, maybe 3 in the afternoon. Then it gets dark at like 6 or 7. So I'm kind of like, and I'm not going to want to work that late. I could get up real early and get started on it, but I might not be done by the time church gets around. And so I'm kind of in that. I don't want to skip church, but we'll see what Jesus wants me to do. He'll let me know. If I get up super early on my own, have a cup of coffee, all that, maybe I'll mosey out to the garage and set up a workspace, get started on this, see how it goes. It might go so smooth and fast that I'm done by the time 10 o'clock gets around and I can just go over to church. But since I'm going to put some time in on the bicycles, the Silver Bullet, the new bicycle that I just bought that I haven't rode yet, I'm going to tune that bike up too. And that bike's ready to roll. I mean, that bike needs very little work. The most of the work, I need to adjust the pedal tension to make sure that the pedal where it clips into my shoes, I need to make sure that the tension's all the way up. Because if the guy that used to own the bike didn't have the tension on the pedals turned all the way up, I'm going to go crazy. Because my feet will come unclipped from the pedals if that's not cranked up. I've got to do just a once over. I got to make sure to go through the gears, brakes. And then I got to do more like adjust the seat position, adjust the handlebar position. I got to take it on a little ride, even if it's just 2-3 miles up and down the road, just to make sure that it not only works, but I can actually like be comfortable on it. And that bicycle is more of a road racing geometry, and it has much skinnier tires than the tires that are on the Red Rocket. I'm thinking they're 700 by 20, maybe 22 millimeters. I don't think they're 18, but they're thin. They're like old school thin tires. And they're probably going to take 120 PSI to firm them up. And I'm thinking if I get on that bicycle and take that to work on Monday, on my way home when it's in the morning, it's probably going to be cold. But on the way home, when it's warm and sunny, if it's going to be warm and sunny, I don't even know what the weather's going to be, but if it's warm and sunny, on my way home on Monday, I might shave another 5 minutes off, because I might be able to my average speed on the Red Rocket right now is between 15 and 20 miles an hour. If I take that Silver Bullet out, that bike just looks fast. It just has, it's not a super fast road racing bike setup. It's more like a casual road bike, in my opinion. Just the geometry, it's definitely more aggressive geometry wise, it has a little bit more aggressiveness than the Red Rocket is basically a long distance touring bike, and it's set up for that. It's set up to go a really long distance comfortably, carry a lot of stuff. You can carry a lot of stuff on that bike with racks and saddlebags, and I've carried 50, 60 pounds worth of stuff on that bike more than once and had no problems. That bike's built to be like a cargo hauler. But it's also meant to go fast. It's not a mountain bike. A mountain bike would be a lot slower. This bike is meant to actually haul ass, but it's not a road racing bike. If I get on this Red Rocket, I had a racer today. I'm going to have to look him up on Strava because somebody caught up to me while I was riding to work today, in between the fart that was not a fart and getting to where the marathon had the woodlands blocked off. This guy passed me on a $15,000-$20,000 Cervelo carbon fiber road racing bike, and he was all decked out in his Lance Armstrong outfit and all this shit, and he said hello, and then he just blew past me, and I was like, the fuck you just did that? And so I got a little more aggressive and caught back up to him, and as he thought he was blowing, he thought he just blew me off, and I was like, no, you didn't just fucking do that. I'm gonna show you what's up. I'm gonna catch back up to you on my $100 Cannondale that I got on Craigslist, and I'll show you that a $20,000 carbon fiber Cervelo isn't really gonna make you a faster rider. And I caught back up to this motherfucker within like, I don't know, half a mile. And then he split off and went a different direction, so we didn't get into a conversation or anything. I think he was a little irritated that a fucking punk on a shitty old bike caught up to him. Because, the people who ride road racing bikes are generally snobs. And so the fact that, and I wasn't going to let him, I was like, I wanted to show this motherfucker, your $20,000 bike really wasn't worth 20 grand, was it? But I'm going to look on Strava because I know he's running the Strava app. Nobody riding a bike like that is going on a bike ride on Saturday without recording it on Strava. And they do this thing called flybys, so you can actually watch your ride and you can actually see everybody that you passed on your ride. And I've already done this. I'll pass a cyclist. I rode over a bridge, and there was a dude mountain biking on a trail below me, and he waved to me, and I waved back to him. I went on Strava later, and I saw him go under the bridge on the map as I was crossing the bridge, and I'm like, right there is where I waved to him, and so I got the guy's name, and I could actually say, hey, I could actually, send him a message through Strava, and be like, hey, what's up? I saw you on your bike the other day. I'm not, that's not what I'm going to do, but that's, some of this big brother shit can be fun sometimes, so I guarantee you, I'm going to know this guy's name, and I'm going to see how fast he actually rides, and what his record times are on different roads and different hill climbs and shit like that. And all I got to do is look at my ride today, and I'm going to see him pass me, and then I'm going to see me catch back up to him. And then we're going to see that we went separate ways, and then I'm going to be able to watch where he went, and he'll be able to see where I went. It's kind of a cool app in in ways like that. But this road bike, the Silver Bullet, I'm excited to ride this thing because I think this thing's gonna fly. It's not a $20,000 carbon fiber, Tour de France quality road racing bike. It's a casual. It's got brake levers on top of the drop handlebars. I don't even know why they're there. It's just because it's more of it's not a touring bike, but it's got rack mounts. It's not a racing bike, but it's got racing geometry. The back wheel is very close to the seat post. It's more upright position. It's got drop handlebars. It's got the front wheel is closer to the frame. The fork rake is more straight down. It's got a carbon fiber front fork, an aluminum frame. It's got a triple crankset in the front instead of a double crankset, which is more of a casual. Road racing bikes don't typically have a triple crankset in the front. So it's got a super, super low gear for going up steep hills, but it's also got a pretty aggressive top gear. I think the top gear on this bike might be harder to pedal than the Top Gear on the Red Rocket. I'm not sure. The Red Rocket has mountain bike components and mountain bike gearing, and that bike shouldn't even exist the way it does, but it works, and it's just something I cobbled together from the frame up. And every single part on the Red Rocket is a part that doesn't belong on that bike. It just somehow it all works together, and I like it, and I've been riding it for almost 20 years. It's been a long time since I built that. That bike is definitely about 20 years old since I built it up. The Cannondale frame is from like the 1980s, I think. Maybe the 1990s. I don't know. It's old. But I've been riding it for a long, long time. I've taken it on thousands of miles of riding, crossed multiple states. Longest bike ride was 800 miles. The longest one-day ride, 174 miles. I've gone 150 miles in a single day, more times than I can count on that Red Rocket bike. I've never crossed the 200 miles in a day mark. I've always wanted to, but I get to about 170 and I tap out. So I don't know. I think the Silver Bullet's gonna be, if I can get both bikes. The Silver Bullet just needs a quick tune-up. Doesn't need any parts replaced. It just needs adjustment. It needs to be fit to my body. It might need a new seat post, but it'll work for now. I'll be able to ride it to work and back probably without any issues. It's going to, at some point down the road, I'm going to want to replace the seat post. That's the only thing I can see so far that I would have any issue with. And that's probably a $20. I mean, that's like a quick Amazon purchase. Common size seat post. It's nothing. It's standard bike parts. It's not. I could ride the bike to the bike shop and I could probably pick from 5 or 6 seat posts that they have and pick one that I think is cool. Put it on there. Yeah, that works. Go home. 10 miles to the bike shop, 10 miles back. I don't know. There's a lot of different ways that could go. But I kind of want to see how fast I can ride that bike to my job and back, especially with the racing tires. But I'm also a little bit paranoid that skinny, smooth road racing tires are much more likely to get flat. But you also got to just let go of the fear and just go out and ride, because, you might ride 500 miles without getting a flat tire on a bike like that. You might get 3 flat tires in a 20-mile ride. You don't know until you know. And I've ridden bikes my whole life, and it's just, you never know what's going to happen. Like today, I came out, wasn't expecting to see a flat tire, especially when the tire was firm and had no problems when I parked it this morning. When I come back out, at some point during the day, the tire sidewall finally just decided to die, and the tube went boom. Because even when I pulled the tube out, I didn't see the hole, but I could hear the hissing and stuff as I was folding up the inner tube. I'm like, yeah, that's a big hole, and it's exactly what happened. And so I didn't even there was no question in my mind about whether I should put the same tire back on or not. Now, if I had no other choice but to put the tire back on, I also carry Gorilla duct tape. And a good sized patch of some Gorilla duct tape would have allowed me to cover up the hole where the inner tube was bulging out of the sidewall of the tire. And Gorilla duct tape would have held up. That would have actually patched me enough to go home. But this tire was in some pretty sad shape. And it could have happened. Another bulge, another sidewall rip could have opened up on the way home. How this didn't happen in the last 3 weeks, I don't even know. Because like I said, I was noticing that this tire is looking a little sus for about 2 or 3 weeks, and I'm sitting here going, I'll ride it till it, because money's so tight that even though I've got a brand new tire sitting here, I want to stretch every dollar I want to get every freaking bike ride I can out of them old ass tires before I put the new tires on. And so I guess it's just, but being a cheapskate cost me a little bit today. But the 10 minutes, the funny thing is, the 10 minutes it took to change the tire, I gained back because of the tire. I got home 13 minutes faster than I normally get home. So I actually got home 3 minutes faster than I would have if the front tire was fine and there were no problems. So even though I had to change my flat tire before I left work, I still got home 3 minutes faster because the tire was so much faster. And so that was just a weird experience, but definite, like, if you have a mountain bike, if you have a bicycle and you want to go faster, if you like have a mountain bike and you only ride on roads, you only ride your mountain bike on the roads, you never take it off road, you never take it on dirt trails, but you're just kind of like, you feel like you're just putting a lot of energy in to go really slow. They make slick tires. They make narrower, not super skinny tires, but they make smooth, slick tires that are high pressure and much narrower than the mountain bike tires for the same rim. And they will make a difference in your speed that you won't believe until you put them on and ride. It will be an amazing difference. On a mountain bike where you might average 15 miles an hour, 10, 15 miles an hour for a certain amount of effort that you're putting in, that same amount of effort, you go 20, 25 miles an hour. Easily. Or 10 to 15, if you're just a casual rider and you're putting in an effort and your average speed tends to be 10 to 15 miles an hour for the same effort, for the same power output that you're putting in the pedals, switching over to city tires, the slick road-based mountain bike tires for putting your mountain bike on the road, you'll gain 5 to 10 miles an hour for the same amount of power that you put in the pedals just by changing the tires. The tires are probably the number one way to gain or lose speed. Even on a mountain bike out in the woods, tire pressure, having the right tires, way more important on a mountain bike. Tires make such a huge difference if you're in the mud and you've got tires that aren't really good in the mud, or you have really good tires but you have too much air. You don't have your tire pressure low enough. Just a 5 psi difference in your tire pressure can increase your speed by 5 to 10 miles an hour off-road, because the grip and the smoothness of the ride and all kinds of things like that. I've made the mistake more than once of going mountain biking after a road ride, like pumping up my mountain bike tires up to 60 psi because we're going to take a bunch of roads to get to some trails. And then we get on the trails and I forgot to air my tires down. And I'm bouncing all over the fucking place and I can't keep any traction and I'm sliding around all over the place and I get stuck in the mud and like it's a complete mess. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, damn it. Psst, psst. I gotta like air down, take all the air out of the tires. All of a sudden I'm flying and I'm just having the best time of my life. But then we come out of the woods and we get back on the road and all of a sudden it's like trying to ride a bike in sand, quicksand. You're pushing all this power into the pedals and you're just bouncing around. You every time you take a pedal stroke, you feel the bike sagging and sogging along and you have all this contact with the road and you're just slogging, you're putting in all this effort, but you're not gliding and you're not getting that you don't feel that speed on the pavement anymore because you put your air pressure down so low for the woods. You come back out on the road and it's actually socking, you're losing 5 to 10 miles an hour. So maybe if you have a CO2 cartridge or you have a decent pump, if you've got time, you might, if you, depends on how much distance you got to cover and how fast you want to go, etc. But sometimes you might have to pull over and put some air back in the tires and make them firm again so that you can actually get where you're going on the road after you come out of the woods. And so like tires are, there's no better way, like the fancy aero bars where, you know, you see the time trial guys with the handlebars that stick out in front of the bike and they're all crouched over in their aerodynamic position with the helmet and all that stuff. Those do make a difference. The wheels, but wheels and tires make the biggest difference in the world. Having the right spokes, having an aerodynamic wheel with really good tires is like, you can put really good tires and aerodynamic wheels on a really crappy bike and turn that bike into something that's almost as fast as that guy on the $20,000 Cervelo that passed me this morning, just by putting decent wheels and tires on a crappy bike. So, I don't know. That's what I got into today. Tomorrow, I'm definitely not going to the dumpster fire church. I really don't know what's going to go on, but that was everything that kind of took place this week. I know this is probably a 2-hour video by the time I put it all together. I don't even know if I'll get it uploaded tonight, but that's why you haven't seen me for about, I don't know, a number of days, however many days it's been, because I just haven't had time to sit down and ramble for an hour, and I've been busy and just a lot of stuff going on. 2 days in a row of the 40-hour bicycle commute, or the 40-mile bicycle commute, and I'm probably just going to fall out as soon as I hit the stop button. So thanks for watching, and we'll talk again. Peace out.